Hey guys, in this project we're going to do something a little different than we have. We're going to be using ChatIO, alright, and WebSockets. And I guess the best way to explain WebSockets is it's a way to pass data back and forth from a client to a server, basically in real time. Instead of making HTTP requests, it's just like an open line. And that makes this ideal for chat applications. And that's what we're going to be building, because basically, anyone who connects to the server, to the socket, can send and receive messages and other data. So that's what we're going to do. It's not going to be as in depth as our other projects in terms of file structure. We'll use the socket.io module, and we will be using Express, but it's going to be very minimal. We're not going to generate an entire Express file structure. We'll create the app.js file and just add what we need to. So the first thing I want to do before we even get into any of that is just build the interface. It's just going to be a pretty simple chat interface. And this, by the way, is just the socket.io website. And if you want to learn more about it, the documentation is pretty good. All right, you have some examples here, just basic Node and Express. Let's see if we can find an example. So on the server side, which would be app.js, you would do something like io.on connection, and then you can emit different types of data. You can see we have emit news, and basically send in hello world. And then on the client side, we're basically using a variable here to connect, and then we're saying that variable dot on and then news, which is coming from here, and then you can attach a callback function and you can use that data. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be doing. All right, now to do the HTML, I just want to, I want to go and just, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to, I don't know why, but this virtual machine has been very, very slow lately. Alright, so I'll call this HTML dev, because that's all we're going to be doing right now is creating the HTML. Okay, and I'm going to have an index file. Alright, and this is going to be the actual file that we use. We'll just use some jQuery at the bottom to communicate with the server and through the socket. So let's start out with just a basic HTML5 structure. Okay, we'll have the head, body. Alright, and in the head we're just going to put a title. Okay, I'll just say ChatIO. Alright, and then in the body, what we're going to do is we're going to have a wrapper for the form where you enter your username. Okay, when they first go to the page, that's all they're going to see. Everything else will be hidden. And then when they fill in their username, the rest of the chat will be shown. Okay, so let's first of all make a container. Alright, and I'm going to create a div with an ID, and let's call this names wrapper. Alright, actually let's make this container an ID. Okay, and in this we're going to have an H2 heading, and this will just say, actually this will just be the header, so we'll just say ChatIO. Alright, and then we'll have a paragraph. It'll say create username, and then we're going to have a form. So this form will have an ID of username. Let's do username form. Alright, and then the form is going to have an input. Let's see, we'll say size 35, and I'm going to give it an ID of username. And then we're just going to have a submit button. So it'll be an input type is going to be submit. Alright, and let's give it a value, and we'll just say submit. Okay, so that's all we need for the form. So let's just open that up, make sure it renders correctly. Alright, so that's fine for now. Now we want to go down below the names wrapper, and we're going to create the main wrapper. So div ID equals main wrapper. Alright, and we're going to have our h2 tag, just say ChatIO, and then we're going to have the chat wrapper. Okay, so the layout is going to be on the left. We'll have the chat window with the messages and the input form, and then on the right we'll have just a list of usernames that are currently connected. Alright, so let's see. In the chat wrapper, we want the chat window. So div ID equals chat window. Alright, and that's going to just be an empty div. And then we're going to have the form. So form, and we're going to give it an ID of message form. Alright, and in that we're going to have just pretty much just an input and a submit. I can actually just copy that. Alright, so this will have an ID of message. Alright, and we'll just throw in a placeholder. And I just want that to say type something. And that's good. The submit, let's just change the value to say it. Alright, so that'll be the main chat. And then we want the user wrapper. So we want to go outside of, let's see, we want to go outside of the chat window, or the chat wrapper. Yeah, so right here is where we'll put the user wrapper. So div ID equals user wrapper. Alright, and then we're just going to have a div in here with the ID of users. Okay, and that's going to be an empty div because that's going to be generated dynamically, just like most of the stuff on this page. Okay, so user wrapper ends there. This is the main wrapper. That's the container. So let's go ahead and save that. Alright, so this, we need to add some CSS to this, and basically this is going to show when we get here, and then once we put our username in, the rest will show. Alright, so we're going to stick the CSS in the index file. So in the head area, let's open up some style tags. Alright. And let's give the background a little bit of color. Okay, so we're just going to do, whoops, we need to put the body tag here. just going to give it a light gray color. Whoop. Let's do F9s. Okay, so that's the body of the container. Okay, container is going to have a width of 700 pixels, and we want to set margin. We want 0 top and bottom, and then auto left and right. Okay, that'll push it to the middle. And then we have the chat window. Okay, chat window, let's give it a height of 300 pixels. Alright, the main wrapper is going to be hidden at first, so we want display none. Alright, the chat wrapper. Okay, chat wrapper is going to float left. We're going to set a border of 1 pixel gray solid. We're going to set the border radius. Let's set that to 10 pixels and give it a background of light gray. Alright, and then give it some padding. Okay, so that's the chat wrapper. Now we want the user wrapper. Alright, so user wrapper will also float left. Alright, let's see, border. Basically going to have all these two, so I'm just going to copy this. Okay, same kind of formatting. Let's see, background padding, and we want to set margin left. Let's set that to 20 pixels, and the width of this is going to be 150 pixels. All right. And then I'm going to set a max height of 200. Okay, so now the names wrapper. Okay, I'm just going to copy this again. Same style. Okay, background, padding. We need padding. Alright, and we also want margin left 20. Okay, now I'm going to just set the inputs to a height of 30. Alright, so that should, let's save that. Okay, so there's the window where we enter our username. Now let's take a look at the chat window. So what I'm going to have to do here is, for main wrapper, I'm going to cut that display none, and then I'm going to put that in the names wrapper. Alright, so here is the chat window. Basically, they'll type something, it'll show up here. Obviously, it doesn't work yet. And then the usernames will be displayed over here. Alright, so very simple. But yeah, that's it for the HTML. Let me put that back, that display none back. Alright, yeah, so we're going to use JavaScript, obviously, to hide this once they enter their username and then show the rest of it. Okay, so in the next video, we'll get started with creating our application and installing the modules, things like that.